Today I'm going to be making a shadow box card, and I'm going to be using Lawn Fawn dies for that. My idea is to make it a Candyland theme. So I'm going to make my own pattern paper using cardstock and Nuvo Embellishment Mousse and this stencil, which is a Tim Holtz shifter stencil with Peppermint. So I'm starting with embellishment mousse that is fusion red, but it's kind of a purpley pink color. And this is the first time I've used this. So I wanted to give it a go since I kind of like the metallic look that it has, but I don't have a foiling machine. I'm also using a Nuvo spatula, but you can use whatever type of spatula that you have. The embellishment mousse is kind of like butter. It starts off kind of hard, and as you work with it, it gets softer and easier to spread. I found it pretty easy to work with. One tip I was given is to make sure that you clean off your tools right away, so after I finished each section, I did wipe off the stencil and the spatula. Also, people said sometimes this dries out, so another tip people said to use is either put some plastic wrap or press and seal over the jar before putting your lid on. So after you use it, you want to make sure you clean it and seal it really good. Another tip I was given is to use some black ink on your stencil and then clean it off, because on the shifter stencils they have open spaces for the peppermint, and then there's a row that just has like a cutout that doesn't have an opening so that you can line it up whenever you move your stencil. But it's kind of hard to see when it's clear, so if you put the ink on it, then as you can tell on the stencil in this video, you can see the shapes. Be sure to watch to the end of the video, and I'll be telling you how you can win a $25 gift card for Lawn Fawn. After I finished with the pink color, I decided to put some Honeydew embellishment mousse on, which is kind of a light green. I had to wait a while for the pink to dry first, but it didn't take too long for the embellishment mousse to dry. By the time I cleaned off my stencils and cleaned off the brush, I didn't have to wait but a few minutes for it to dry. And you can see here how I lined it up. The black ones that really don't have openings on the stencil, I put over the pink candy peppermints, and then the openings are in between where there's nothing painted. After letting my embellishment mousse stencils dry for quite a while, and I know it was over an hour, I decided to add Nuvo Glimmer Paste. This is Moonstone. So it's kind of like glue with glitter in it. And I thought this would make it look like glitter paper, which I'm going to be using on the inside of the shadow box. I'm using the spatula and also the stencil helper. However, I noticed as I was doing it that some of the pink must have bled into the Moonstone because there's kind of a pink hue to the glitter paste as I was doing it. Now the green didn't bleed, so I don't know if I didn't let it dry long enough or if this just is a problem with the pink embellishment mousse with Moonstone over the top. Now I worked on this for a while to make sure I got the whole area covered in the glimmer paste. Then I had to let it dry for a long time, and it was probably about 3 hours before it was completely dry so that I could use it for my die cut machine to cut out the shadow box pieces. So while this was drying, I went ahead and cut out other pieces for my shadow box and did the stamping and some coloring. If you use a thicker paper, you may not have to let it dry quite as long, but this was pretty wet. I actually did more paper than I needed for the shadow box, but I did that intentionally because I thought, while I was already doing this, I made extra so I could cut out some squares to use for future cards. I cut a fox, a stump, and a gingerbread man out of brown cardstock so it'll look like gingerbread. Now I'm using my powder tool to go over them because I'm going to emboss them. So that'll keep the embossing powder from sticking places other than the stamped area. Now I'm stamping them with Versamark ink, which is clear, and that will allow the embossing powder to stick to it. I'm using Lawn Fawn white chunky embossing powder. I thought that would make it look like icing. I'm going to keep this in real time so that you can see about how much time it takes to heat emboss an item. When you heat emboss, you want to let your heat tool heat up for a little bit before you actually do the embossing. And then sometimes I blow the heater underneath the paper once in a while so that I don't get too much heat on the front. Otherwise, you could burn your paper. You can tell when it's done when you can see that it's melting, so it kind of changes colors as it melts. Gets a little bit more shiny. I do my embossing over a coffee filter. That way I can pour the leftovers back into the jar and use it again. If you use a different color, you want to make sure you use a different coffee filter, otherwise you might get red embossing powder in your white jar. I found it was easier with these small images to use some tweezers so that you could do the embossing without burning your fingers, and also so that you can hold it without knocking all the embossing powder off. These tweezers work okay, but these were just some I had in the medicine cabinet. I do have a pair on my Christmas list, so I need to get a pair that doesn't have metal, that's more of a plastic handle so that it doesn't get so hot. I've cut out all the images, so now I'm going to go ahead and square my shadow box. So both of these pieces are the same, you just cut out a window on one side. Now I'm using score tape to put the two pieces of the shadow box together. Put this on one of the tabs and then attach the other side. Before closing the shadow box, I'm going to attach my hills. So first of all, I figure out where I want them. So I'm going to put the smaller one towards the front and the larger one towards the back. And I'm going to put score tape on just one side and attach it to just the one side of the box. The hills and all the other shapes I cut out with Lawn Fawn dies, and I used Lawn Fawn's glitter paper, and this is called Pixie Dust. Next, I add score tape to the other tabs on the opposite side of the hill and then attach it to the other side of the box. I do this by folding the box over. I decided to go ahead and add my sentiment before putting the score tape on the final side of the box. I cut out the glitter paper with the Lawn Fawn Wavy banner die. Then I stamped my image using Distress ink and a Merry Christmas stamp, which came from the Naughty or Nice stamp set. But you could use whatever stamp you have. I like to use my stamping platform for that so that I can stamp the message several times to make sure that it showed up on the glitter paper. Now I'm using an alcohol marker to color. These are actually the tops of the trees dies, but I thought they looked like gumdrops. And I'm using a Copic marker in a pink color. Next, I'm using my own dimensional squares that I made with cardboard and double-sided tape. I did make a video of how to do that. I'm using that to attach my sentiment and the gumdrops. And I'll use those for the other images that I cut out for the box. Now I'm adding score tape so that I can seal the last side of the box. I cut out a rectangle with the glitter paper and coloring it with a blue marker. I'm going to put this in the back of the box so that it looks like the sky, and I'll attach it with some score tape. I'm attaching all the rest of the images with my dimensional squares that I made with cardboard, and sometimes I used some chipboard if I didn't want it to stand out quite as far. Now I'm just going to play some music so you can enjoy the rest of the time that I'm making the card. I'll just continue adding all the different images. For some reason, I didn't record the last couple trees, and then I added some candy canes to the back of the card, but I did it the same as all the rest of the images. Currently, I'm holding a contest on my blog, which gives you the opportunity to win a $25 gift card to Lawn Fawn, so you can get a shadow box die or whatever other stamps and dies you would like. There's no cost to enter the contest, and you can enter many different ways, including by watching videos. The contest will go until Saturday, November 30th, 2019. So check out the link that I'll post here to go to the blog and enter the contest. Good luck to everybody.